What's going on, beautiful people? This is the Perspective Chasers podcast, and I'm your host, John. On this episode, I want to talk about goal setting, as obviously time of year is appropriate. So happy New Year's Eve to everybody, and wish you all the best for the new year, and let's get to it. So look, there's going to be a lot out there about setting goals and this, that, and everything else. And in some ways, it's going to be my 2 cents on the matter, but in other ways, it's going to be a bit more of a reality check. Because as straightforward as the theory of goal setting is and everything else, when you're actually going through it and you're working your way towards your goals and everything else, it's never as smooth as the planning phase. So I'll probably talk with more emphasis on that, as long as I can remember anyway. So let's get into the first principles of goal setting. So initially, look, you need to be, I forget what the model was that we used to use when I was a personal trainer, but I'll riff one that will somewhat make sense anyway. So look, they got to be specific. So it's one thing to say, I want to make more money. It's another thing to say, I want to increase my earnings by 10,000, 20,000, 5,000, 1,000, whatever, 100,000, whatever it is. Like, make it quantifiable. I want to lose weight. Okay, how much? Because if you lose a gram, technically you've lost weight. Is that the goal achieved? So be specific in what you want to achieve, and obviously set a time frame on that in regards to that. And be specific with the time frame. You don't have to be down to the day and hour, but end of month, end of year, quarterly, whatever. And that's the other thing with time frames, is set a realistic time frame. Along with the goal being realistic, the time frame has to be realistic. So as I quoted before, and I'll probably do again very poorly in this episode and many episodes in the future, but most people overestimate what they can do in a year and underestimate what they can do in 10. Now, I can never remember who said that, so please forgive me, but all credit goes to them. That's not my own thing. But there is so much truth in that. So be realistic in the time frame that you're setting for yourself, and be realistic in the goal that you're setting for yourself. If you're currently working part-time, making 15,000 a year, setting yourself a goal of getting to 100,000 by the end of the year doesn't seem quite realistic, considering on the amount you'd have to improve. But making an extra 5,000, 10,000, that's more realistic, because you've got that within your wiggle room. If you're making a couple 100,000 or a couple million a year already, and you want to make another 100,000 by the end of the year, that's far more realistic from your standpoint. So always take into consideration your starting point as well as your end point, or your goal. So that's in terms of being specific about the goal. Then obviously the part is measurable, which is obviously, how can you quantify it? So money, weight, more friendships, more vacations, a new home, a new car, like whatever it is, what is the goal? How can you measure if you've achieved that goal? That still falls into being specific in my mind, and obviously it's still very important that it is a measurable kind of time frame or a measurable goal in any sense. But again, that's how to say it without getting off topic. It's just more of the same, really. It's more, if you're specific about your goals and you take time to sit down and plan what it is you want your goal to be, if you're specific across the board, you'll more than likely cover most of the bases of this. Just be thorough with it and take your time when you're doing it. What's the what other ones are there? This ain't anybody's model. This is just what I can remember and a combination of what I've seen over the years. But I hope nobody ever tries to get me for plagiarizing. What was the next kind of thing? Is it realistic? Is it achievable? That again comes into being I suppose specific, but again, like that's more, be realistic with what you want. Like I said, if you're earning 15,000, don't aim to make 100,000 by the end of the year. Like, set a smaller goal and work according to your start point. And see, that's the thing, like there's probably more that I could remember from this model or that model, or research into different models of goal setting and everything else. But if you've been specific, if you've been realistic, and if you hold yourself accountable, you're gonna cover most of the bases, regardless of what it is. And that's why I started out this episode by saying, like, a lot more of it's going to be on the back end. So for example, if your goal is to increase your earnings and you start on that and you're a couple months in and all of a sudden the increased workload is now caused you to be fatigued and now you can't keep up with it, how do you deal with the mental strain of it and still get your goal when you're exhausted? Or if you're trying to lose weight and you hit a plateau and you've been losing weight steadily for a couple of months and all of a sudden you can't lose weight anymore. And that's the thing, and that's why I wanted to talk about goal setting from more of a broader angle, because it's goal setting, yes, but then you don't know how you're going to fare on your journey. And you're never going to know that until you go through the journey. So don't hold off for that. But it's a case of, damn it, I lost the train of thought. I hate it when that happens. It's a case of setting yourself up so that even when you do kind of dip, and I got the thread back, I think. Even when you do dip and kind of fall off the scale, you remind yourself why you wanted the goal in the first place. So it's always going to be an ongoing thing with the goal setting. It's not just you set your goals at the beginning of the year and hip hip hooray, you've achieved them by the end of the year. There's going to be a constant adjustment throughout in order to achieve your goal. If you're working your way to 100,000, you might make your way to 50,000 very easily and then plateau. Much like losing weight, you may lose weight quickly and then plateau. And then how do you get over that? You got halfway to your goal and it's almost in sight and you're exhausted, you've put in all the effort. But then how do you push on to your goal even still then? And that's the thing, I think everybody will go through that kind of plateau stage no matter what you're trying to chase on your journey, no matter what your goal is. For me, most people, one time or another, reach a point where they're kind of at a stalemate for a little while. And things were progressing well, and then they've just plateaued and they're literally just coasting for a while. And that's all right in some instances, and sometimes that's what people want to do. Some people are fine coasting, and that's great. But for the people that are chasing progression, that's like being a deer in headlights. You don't know what to do. You're just like, well, I'm still going to the gym, or I'm still saving, I'm still doing overtime, and I'm still doing this, but I'm no closer to my goal. Well, that's going to come for everybody. So learning how to deal with that and kind of setting yourself up for that is going to help you achieve that goal far better. And know that a lot of people go through that. I mean, I was going to say everybody, but I can't speak for everybody. I can't even speak for a lot of people, but in my experience and from the amount of people that I've met, a lot of people have told me about their struggles at one point in life or another. And again, everything is situational, so if you put yourself in each situation and you dissect it, you can see how through each person's life they'll be on their way to something, they'll be on their way to a promotion or this or that, and they'll hit the fatigue, or something will come up in life that will draw their attention and this and that, and how they deal with it and how they bounce back and how it affects them. And that, to me, like looking at that and looking at my own life, that helps me break it down better and kind of understand not just goal setting, but goal achieving in the sense of that constant adjustment, that constant adapting to each situation as it goes. Like, no matter how intelligent you are, there's a limit to how far ahead you can plan and how many variables you can control. So no matter what aspect of life you're looking at, you're always going to have to adjust as you go. And learning that and expecting that can change the game for a lot of people. Because if it catches you off guard, it can throw you for 10 and you don't know where you're going or what you're doing or why you're on the path in the first place. So for that, I'd say remind yourself why you do it. And that would come back to when you're setting your goals. Like, and I don't think this is actually something that I've ever seen on any kind of criteria for goal setting, but make an attachment to that goal. So why you want to achieve it, not just what you'll get if you get it, i.e. if you make more money, your quality of life will improve. If you lose weight, you might fit into smaller clothes, feel better about yourself, this, that, or whatever else. Like, and then build out from that and say, well, how would I feel when I achieve this, and why do I want to achieve it? And build out that whole story. Give yourself a greater reason for achieving the goal. The more weight you put on that goal, the more they'll be drawing you to it. The more details you can build up around it. And I think this is where kind of manifestation comes into a lot of kind of talk in life, where people talk about manifesting their reality and everything else. And I think it's the more you can paint that vivid picture in the head, in your head, the more it is like manifesting your reality. Whether it's, I suppose, kind of a chicken and an egg scenario, but if you can see it clear enough in your mind, eventually you'll see the way to it. So all of the planning and all of the kind of the theory, the structure work, that's great. But the more emotion, the more vivid kind of imagery you can put towards your goal, the more you'll be drawn to it, in my opinion, or kind of gravitate towards it. Like, again, like I try to use examples from my own life. So now that I've got the pod, the amount of my own life situations I refer to the pod, or things I've said on the pod, or vice versa. I mean, it's still quite complicated for me to refer to personal life situations on the pod because I don't know where the lines are and this and that. But anyway, I digress. But it's still an ongoing journey, and that's the thing. Like, I adjust as I go, and the more things I learn and the more things that I do along the way, and the closer I get towards my goal of having my own podcast and it being successful and this, that, and everything else, and kind of pursuing that dream of sitting here talking to everybody and anybody and kind of building out those life experiences, the more kind of vividness I put to that, and the more weight I give it, the more it seems to build. Now, again, I set fairly low expectations for this because I didn't want to be disheartened. I know things take time, but even then, I was probably unrealistic with what I was setting for myself. So, I don't know, you've got to constantly adjust with it. And I think that's one thing that a lot of kind of goal setting things kind of miss out on, is they may set up in the beginning, but I don't think they kind of follow through. They don't give you a point where you adjust. And again, I might be wrong. There might be thorough and kind of like ongoing goal setting modules out there for people to follow. But again, this is only my experience. And I think having that time to reflect, and if you have set like a long-term goal and everything else, having that time to sit back and not just see where you are on terms of that goal, but if it's still what you want, if it's all that you wanted, if your goal's developed, if you've developed, or if you've changed, or your ideas have changed, like having that that sit down and that kind of adjustment period, I think will help a lot of people in terms of achieving their goals. And that's kind of what I do here. So like, if I see something that works, or if I feel that something's going to work, or I talk to somebody about something, I adjust things. So you'll constantly see things changing around here, hopefully anyway, until I find something that works. And that's the thing, like, it's an ever growing thing. Your goals will be forever growing. So just give them the time to grow with you. Like, even still, to relate it back to the original goals, like losing weight and making money, you may realize that you either want to lose more weight or less weight than you originally wanted because of your understanding at the time of starting, or you want to make more or less money than you originally stated because things have changed, or you thought it was unrealistic or realistic. There's a constant kind of reevaluation. I think that's a real key to kind of winning in your goals, is being realistic and having that kind of reevaluation and that ongoing assessment of things. So I think I've kind of babbled enough about goal setting for today anyway, at least on my ones. I hope this helps anybody out there setting goals for the new year, or anytime you find this. Again, this is all still a bit weird to me. I'm just a dude babbling in a room at the minute, but we will get there, people. The seed for this episode, it's a new year, so what can the seed be? I don't know if I want it to be a seed about goal setting, but the seed for this episode will be taking a moment to sit back and assess life. I've said about taking a moment to kind of sit back before and everything else, but not in this sense. When I say sit back and kind of assess things, assess what you want to, where you want to be this time next year. When you're coming to setting your goals again, when things are going how you currently want them to go. So say the current goals that you made now, say all of those are achieved next year. Reminisce from that place. See how you'd feel in that place. If you had that new house, that new car, the new job, you had a partner now, or whatever it is, try sit in that moment. Give yourself everything you want. Every goal that you want to set for yourself, give yourself that. And sit in that moment as much as you can. Close your eyes and just picture it as vividly as you can. Sit in that moment for as long as you can. And enjoy it. Like, put weight in that moment. Build it out as vivid as you can and enjoy it. Because that's where you want to head. And if you can't enjoy it, then ask yourself, is that really where you want to head? Anyway, Happy New Year, all the best, and I'll catch you on the next one.